The echoes of the clock tower resonated through the dimly lit streets of the city, signaling the passing of yet another agonizing week for Greg and Becky. Despite their frantic efforts, they had failed to come up with the money owed to Don Federico. And now, the consequences of their debt loomed over them like a dark cloud ready to burst. Greg paced the confines of their cramped apartment, his fist clenched in frustration. "We can't let him take Lisa," he muttered, his voice laced with desperation. Becky's eyes brimmed with tears as she clutched onto Greg's arm. "We have no choice, Greg. We're in too deep." But their conversation was cut short by the ominous sound of approaching footsteps. The door creaked open, revealing Don Federico's menacing henchmen, their faces twisted into cruel sneers. "It's time," one of them snarled, his voice dripping with malice. Greg's heart sank as he watched them advance, his mind racing with futile attempts to find a way out of their dire situation. But before he could utter another word, they grabbed him and Becky, dragging them out into the night. The journey to Don Federico's mansion was a blur of fear and uncertainty. As they entered the opulent grounds, Greg and Becky felt like sacrificial lambs being led to the slaughter. But nothing could prepare them for the sight that greeted them inside. Don Federico's grandiose mansion loomed before them, a testament to his power and wealth. But it was the sinister aura that hung in the air like a suffocating fog that sent shivers down their spines. And standing in the grand foyer, like a puppet master pulling the strings of fate, was Don Federico himself. His eyes bore into Greg and Becky with a cold, calculating gaze. "You have failed me," he spat, his voice sending chills down their spines. Greg's voice trembled with fear as he pleaded for mercy. "Please, Don Federico. We'll find a way to pay you back, I swear." But Don Federico's expression remained unchanged, his lips curled into a cruel smile. "It's too late for that, Greg. You made your choice, and now you must face the consequences." With a flick of his wrist, Don Federico signaled to his men, and they approached Lisa, who stood trembling beside her parents. "No." Greg lunged forward, but his efforts were in vain as the henchman seized Lisa, dragging her away from her family's desperate grasp. Tears streamed down Becky's face as she reached out to her daughter, her heart breaking at the sight of Lisa's terrified expression. "We'll find a way to save you, Lisa. I promise." But as the doors of the mansion slammed shut behind them, Greg and Becky were left alone in the darkness, their world crumbling around them. Meanwhile, in another wing of the mansion, a different kind of turmoil brewed beneath the surface. Dave Federico, the only son of Don Federico, stood at the window of his lavish quarters, his gaze fixed on the city skyline beyond. Despite the wealth and privilege that surrounded him, there was a heaviness in his heart that refused to dissipate. His father's tyranny weighed heavily on his conscience, casting a shadow over his every thought. He had returned from America with dreams of a better life, only to find himself trapped in a gilded cage of his father's making. But amidst the chaos and corruption that permeated his world, Dave clung to one shred of hope, the belief that there was still goodness left in the world, waiting to be discovered. And as he watched the city lights twinkle in the distance, a resolve ignited within him like a flickering flame. He would not stand idly by and watch his father's reign of terror continue unchecked. He would fight for justice, even if it meant defying the very blood that flowed through his veins. For Dave Federico, the time for redemption had come, and nothing would stand in his way.